DeWalt has two new oscillating blades, a three-sided blade and a plunge point blade. So these are two of the new blades that DeWalt has just recently released. And by the way, DeWalt did send these to us. They did not ask any specific stuff. In fact, they didn't even tell us these were coming. They just literally showed up, a box of them. I don't know, they're probably 5 a piece. So did want to let you know they did send them to us at free of charge, but not getting paid for this. And also they did not ask any specifics from us. Not that it would matter. We're going to give you the truth anyway. But here is the general purpose plunge point blade. I believe model number, yeah, DWA 4258. And this is the general purpose three-sided blade. And it is the DWA 4283. So you see we get a 2 1/8 inch wide cut here, which, if you don't know, typically your receptacle boxes are going to be between 2 1/8, 2 1/4 inches, depending on which box you're using. But in a sense, you're basically going to get a single cut there to hit the width of that. And then the three-sided, especially for drywall work, that's going to work out really well. So you can cut left and right with this blade. That's the idea anyway. So general purpose blade here, general purpose blade here. Now, they are claiming on this one they have a performance coating and says for up to 7 times the life. Now, nowhere on any of these packages am I finding carbide, or even in some of the literature online, on their website, are they talking about carbide teeth. However, they are telling us right here there is a coating. They're calling it a performance coating and set up to 7 times for life. And you can see they're showing a nail there. So we're assuming that this is going to last longer in typically your nail embedded wood, but they're claiming the same on the other three-sided blade. They're not claiming the 7 times life, but they are claiming you can cut nails and things like that with it also, especially online. Or right there, you see the nail embedded wood there. So basically telling us we should be able to do that. Hey, do you have a better idea at testing these oscillating multi-tool blades? And would you like to see these paired up against other brands as well? Let us know in the comments. We're going to relieve them from their packaging, and then let's get started. And can somebody explain something to me, you packaging engineers out there? Why do we have a typical clamshell pack here, but on this one, a different style clamshell pack? I don't know. I don't know what calls for one thing and what calls for another. By the way, that was a topic of conversation recently that I had. By the way, I do want to show you something. You see nothing in there other than the blade. And then let's see if we can cut this one open. So you see that this little thing fell out from underneath the packaging, or from out of the packaging when we were cutting this. And I say that because if you happen to use a Dremel oscillating multi-tool, and Dremel being the brand, not a Dremel tool, but an actual Dremel branded oscillating multi-tool, you will probably want this as an adapter that actually goes on with the blade to fit your Dremel and to be able to use the tool-free blade changing. On this one, you see we didn't get it. However, hiding here on the inside, there's no instructions anywhere anyway in here, but if you open this up, there it is, taped inside on double stick tape. So again, if you have a Dremel oscillating multi-tool with the tool-free blade changing, you'll want to open that package and get it out from the middle of that, which is different than on this one where it was just packaged in the clamshell, or in the clamshell itself, and just kind of fell out with it. And you can see right here on the writing, it says also includes spacer for Dremel tool-free units, and then in another language. So both of these new blades should work with most of your brands that you know of, your Makitas, your Milwaukees, your Bosch, your as we just mentioned, Dremel for all the tool-free blade changes for the most part, and should be able to be used with those without any problems, again, other than a Dremel where you'll need these spacers. So we'll take our oscillating multi-tool here, and let's take the general purpose, I believe they're calling it this three-sided oscillating tool blade, or oscillating multi-tool blade, and we'll get this fitted on here. And we'll go ahead and set this in auto mode. Now, I looked around the shop and couldn't find any drywall. I've got a piece of foam on here. We know drywall is not going to be tough on cutting It's just being able to maneuver around and get some precise cuts. And I think that 3-sided blade is going to do just that. Again, we have this in auto. You could set the speed pretty low for drywall, but anyway. So just with your single pass of the knife, the blade, we can easily put in our receptacle box, regardless of what type of box you are using there. But no need to really go side to side on this with that 3-bladed knife. You can pretty much plunge, and you've got your width, and then on your length to be able to run that up or down, utilizing the sides of those and not having to walk the blade up with just the point of the blade. So obviously, drywall stuff is going to work great for. Now, if you have door casings, window casings, quarter round, things like that, then, you know, that's pretty typical for an OMT or an oscillating multi-tool to be able to get around those areas to whether you're needing to cut flush or angle cut or just kind of back cut things. Very handy to do that. And so no problem, even with just one hand, to be able to get in there and make that cut if I need to. Even if I needed to run up, and even plunge cutting is not a problem, even with that wide 3-sided blade. What's interesting, as the paint wears off, I'm kind of seeing what they're calling, I guess, their performance coating, even though they didn't brag about it on this packaging here. You can see here, nowhere on there does it talk about a performance coating. That looks like what we've got there is that coating of gold there that's under the paint. And again, they're claiming nail embedded wood as well, so let's see how well it does here on these nails. Not bad at all, cutting them very quickly. Doesn't look like much hurt on those teeth either. Now, after cutting those nails, let's see how well we can plunge cut right here on this 1x material. I will say something I'm noticing, and this could be from that coating. Plunge cutting works great. Even cutting those nails, it worked great. Really quick, eats right through them. However, with the side of these blades being able to walk through that wood, it's really not cutting very well. You kind of have to lean on it hard. I don't have a problem with that, because if that's literally meant for drywall, I get it. That's probably most of the time you're going to be using that, not trying to come in here with the side of this blade and cut through. But I did want you to know the front side of the blade cuts quickly. My board wouldn't move. Let me cut that again. So again, the front side cuts quickly, but if I go in and plunge, and try to just use side pressure, it just really doesn't cut that well. So not holding that against it. Again, I'm assuming that's probably primarily for drywall purposes. But the front side with that coating on there, if that's what's doing it, or if there's a different tooth format, that's cutting really well for plunge as well as just cutting wood. Let's get this one off. And we'll get this one on. So now we've got the plunge point tip on there. And if you'll notice, this is not a squared off tip. You can see it's not a right angle, that literally it has the point here is sticking out further away from the tool than this one. So that's supposed to be your plunge point, to be able to kind of lean that in and start that first. And with a narrower blade, you should be able to get a faster plunge than on that big wide blade as well. So I'm going straight at that wood, and you can see that obviously that point is getting in there before the rest of the tool. Let me flip this over. We can show this a little better. So again, they're straight on, and the point's touching over here, not over here. So it should give you a better plunge capability. So same with the other blade, plunging capability, rather quick. And you can see again, as the paint is starting to wear off, we're seeing that coating underneath this blade as well. Yep, even on the back side, that gold shining through. So it looks like maybe some type of titanium coating, which we see on drill bits sometimes, and maybe on some other OMT blades. Again, they're not being specific on that. They're just calling it a performance coating. They're also not claiming that this is necessarily a metal blade, but a general purpose, but they do have a piece of angle in there, like angle iron, for cutting as well. So let's cut some nails over here and see. These are typical ring shank nails that you'd see fired out of a framing gun, a framing nailer. And so pretty typical in construction, especially when you're working around studs and 2x4s. This is what you're going to encounter. Cut very quickly, and not much harm to that blade at all, if any. Pretty impressive. You're saying, Tim, are you nailing in those nails without tips? And yes, I am. Let's run through those again. Which, by the way, if you're ever cutting nails like that, try not to just ram the tool into the actual material, into the nail or the screw, because a lot of times that's where you create the damage on the blade itself, is when you're kind of ramming it into the steel. If you ease it in and let the teeth do the work, many times you can prolong the life of that blade, whether it's a general purpose or a specific metal/steel blade. Now I've got a simple piece of 1-inch square tubing and a little less than an 1/8 inch thick. Okay, pretty impressive. I didn't figure I'd get through that 1/8 inch steel. Again, I really don't see any missing teeth on this either. So, good job, DeWalt, on making a general purpose blade that will cut plunge wood. Obviously, drywall is not going to be an issue. Cut steel, and then still be able to plunge cut. Now, we checked current prices on these, and the 3-sided blade you can get for $25, and the Plunge-Point blade you can get for $20, I think $19.98 and $24.98. But you can get a 3-pack for $45 of the 3-sided, and a 3-pack of the Plunge-Point blades for $25. So the 3-pack is going to be a lot better deal. I'm sorry, not $25, $35. So $20 and $35 for the single and the triple pack, and $25 and $45 for the single and the 3-pack for the 3-sided blade. So that may be a better deal for you if you're in need for one or both of these blades. You can find them at Lowe's. I think you can find them online as well. But check them out. We'll have a link in the description if you're interested. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down, but let us know in the comments why. Have a great day and keep smiling.